Okay, so remember that Hanforth Parish Council meeting clip that just exploded online a while back?
Oh, absolutely. Hard to forget that one.
It was comedy gold, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Total chaos. But it also kind of accidentally put a massive spotlight on local government, like right down to the parish level.
it really did. And, while it was funny, beneath all the shouting and Jackie Weaver becoming an icon, it touched on something pretty serious about standards in public life.
Exactly. And that's what we want to unpack in this deep dive. We're going beyond those viral moments, looking at the bigger picture of trust or maybe the lack of it in politics generally.
Right. How these local councils, especially the smaller parish ones, can sometimes go off the rails, become really dysfunctional.
Yeah, and what that does to the community, the ripple effects, and crucially, what can actually be done. How do we get back to, better governance and rebuild some of that lost trust?
It's a huge question. Because this issue of trust, or maybe we should say distrust, it feels like it's everywhere at the moment, doesn't it? Like a general crisis of confidence in the whole system.
It does. So what's the reality? Is there data on how bad this trust issue is, particularly when we zoom into the local level?
Yeah, there is, and it's quite stark, actually. A poll by the Global Compassion Coalition found that 57% of people have little faith in their local MPs. 57%.
Wow. That's more than half. And it wasn't just MPs, was it?
No, pretty much the same for the civil service. 53% had a little faith there, too. It points to something, quite systemic.
So what's driving that? Is it scandals or something deeper?
It seems to be a mix. You've got the high-profile scandals, maybe corruption, a feeling that there's just no accountability, but also the role of the media probably plays into it.
How so?
Well, in this age of what people call fake news, sensationalism, very partisan reporting, that same poll found only 26% trust big media outlets to actually act in the best interests of local people.
That's low too. It really fuels that cynicism you see online sometimes. I was looking at a Reddit thread about whether voting even matters.
Oh, yeah. What were people saying?
Some pretty strong stuff, like
Okay.
national politics is just choosing which faction of the British ruling elite will be oppressing us. Real disillusionment, this idea that Westminster is broken.
That's bleak.
Yeah.
But interestingly, did that discussion touch on local elections at all?
It did, and that was the surprising bit. While some felt totally powerless nationally, others made the point that your vote in a parish council election can be incredibly powerful.
How so?
Like sometimes representing maybe 1 to 5% of the total vote. That's massive compared to a general election. It suggests maybe change is possible just closer to home.
That's a really important distinction. And, while trust in politicians has, let's be honest, historically never been sky high, there's a sense it is declining further. Maybe because people are less deferential now?
You mean more willing to challenge?
Yeah, exactly. A more informed public is, quite rightly, more likely to question institutions, to demand that trust is earned, not just given.
Okay, so that sets the scene. This erosion of trust is real. But let's get specific. When things go wrong at that parish council level, what does dysfunction actually look like? Forget the viral clips for a second. What are the real red flags?
Well, the Committee on Standards in Public Life talks about poor behavior and serious misconduct by some counselors. And this isn't just, minor disagreements. It causes significant disruption.
Making life difficult for others.
They're seriously difficult, especially for the clerks, the people trying to actually run the council day to day. They have a seriously hard time. Imagine constant interruptions when you're trying to speak.
Impossible.
Or people constantly undermining your confidence, questioning your ability, your integrity, even things like slander during election campaigns. It gets nasty.
Yeah.
Some sources literally describe certain councils as a graveyard for clerks. It suggests a really hostile environment.
That's awful, and it spills out, doesn't it? It's not just contained within the council meetings. I remember reading in the Barnsley Chronicle about residents demanding a vote of no confidence.
Ah, was that the case about the building name?
Yes, a building name got changed without permission, dropping the village name people cared about for a late councilor's name, and the community reaction was just huge.
Really emotional.
That's a perfect example, isn't it? Internal decisions, maybe poor governance, having a massive external impact, hitting people where they live. And it goes beyond just sort of outright bad behavior.
How do you mean?
Well, dysfunction can just be about a basic lack of respectful interaction. Counselors not getting along, using inappropriate language or tone, even in emails.
Right.
And this idea of counselors not staying in their lane, basically, not respecting the professional boundaries like the general manager's role or interfering with staff. So it's about the whole culture, not just isolated incidents.
Exactly. Bullying and intimidation are mentioned frequently. And it can cut both ways, counselors towards clerks or sometimes clerks towards counselors. It just sours the working environment, as one report put it.
And I guess that affects the actual work getting done, the decisions.
Absolutely. Poor quality review processes, dodgy decision-making. We even see reports of meeting minutes being changed, distorted to be positively misleading because the full facts have not been disclosed.
Wow, manipulating the official record.
Seems like it, yeah.
Ah,
And sometimes just a complete lack of empathy for the staff, not recognizing the work they've already put in to try and fix things. It all adds up to a picture of, well, breakdown.
it really does. Okay, so we see what it looks like. But how does a council get into that state? What allows this dysfunction to take root and sort of fester?
A big part of it seems to be about oversight, or the lack of it. Parish councils, as you said, vary hugely in size and budget, but the oversight can be quite light touch,
Meaning not enough checks and balances.
pretty much. And specifically, a lack of meaningful sanctions. This is a point that comes up again and again. Remember the old standards board for England?
Vaguely, yeah. It was abolished.
Yeah, back in 2012.
Yeah.
And with it went the power to suspend counselors. That left a huge gap. The idea was local solutions would emerge, but largely they haven't. Not effectively, anyway.
So if someone behaves badly, there's not much that can actually be done.
Often, not much beyond maybe a formal censure or being asked to apologize. It gets described as a slap on the wrist. It doesn't really discourage the behavior.
Right, hardly a deterrent.
And there's another layer of politics. If you're the leader of a political group on the council, are you really going to push hard to sanction one of your own members, especially if you need their vote?
Yeah, that's a built-in conflict of interest, isn't it?
Exactly. It undermines the whole process from the start.
What about the rules themselves, like codes of conduct? Don't they help?
Well, they exist, yes. Councils have to have them. But sources talk about a complete disregard and complacency towards them. Why? Because of that lack of enforcement we just talked about.
So the rules are there, but they don't have teeth.
Precisely. And another thing, training on the code, on ethics, it's not mandatory for counselors.
Seriously, you don't have to do training on the rules you're supposed to follow.
Nope. And it gets more complicated because not all councils use the same code. Some adopt the one from their main local authority. Others use a model from NALC, the National Association of Local Councils.
So it's inconsistent.
Very. Which makes it confusing for modern officers, the people who are supposed to handle complaints. It leads to what's been called a postcode lottery for whether your complaint actually gets dealt with effectively.
That sounds incredibly frustrating for residents.
It is. And other issues creep in too, like counselors not properly declaring interests.
Like financial interests.
Yeah, or other conflicts. An example given was counselors who rent out properties not declaring that interest in, say, housing scrutiny meetings, whereas council tenants have to declare their status. It just looks unfair.
Creates a double standard.
Definitely. And sometimes counselors wear multiple hats. Maybe they're also a trustee of a local charity or sit on different bodies. That can lead to divided loyalties or even potential financial gain if not managed carefully.
So it's not always about malicious intent. Sometimes it's just messy.
It can be. But often, underpinning all this, are poor council cultures. Grant Thornton did some work on council failures and highlighted cultures marked by poor behaviors, a lack of transparency, and people finding ways around the proper procedures.
And leadership plays a role.
A huge role. Weak leadership or leadership that just doesn't tolerate any challenge, that's a recipe for bad decisions and taking silly risks. There's even this phrase they used, optimism bias and willful ignorance. Basically, counselors or officers not asking the tough questions, maybe accepting financial information that doesn't really make sense just because it's easier not to rock the boat.
Wow. Willful ignorance, that's quite a charge. So when a council gets stuck in this pattern, bad behavior, weak oversight, poor culture, what's the actual fallout? What does it do to the community and the way things are run?
Well, the most immediate impact, as Demos pointed out, is that hit to public trust we talked about earlier. It leads directly to people disengaging, feeling apathetic, powerless.
Like with that building name change example, the community felt ignored and trust just evaporated.
Exactly. They called for a vote of no confidence. When people feel the internal processes are broken, They feel like they're getting the runaround if they try to raise an issue.
Like nobody's listening.
Or worse, like there's nobody to turn to. And if decisions start to look politically motivated rather than fair, especially if one party dominates the council that damages confidence even further, people just think, what's the point?
And it must be awful for the people working inside that system, too. The clerks, maybe even other counselors trying to do a good job.
Oh, definitely.
Huh.
We mentioned the soured working environment. It causes huge stress for clerks. That high turnover rate, 20–30% in some areas, that's often down to the toxic environment and bullying.
And counselors themselves aren't immune.
Not at all. They face intimidation, too. It can be online abuse, nasty social media comments attacking their reputation, but it can also be physical.
Physical? Really?
Yeah, reports mention attacks on homes, on cars, even cars being set on fire. It's shocking. In some places, councils have had to install CCTV at counselors' homes for protection.
That is genuinely alarming. And doesn't the fact they have to publish their home addresses when they stand for election make them more vulnerable?
Hugely. It puts them right out there.
Huh.
And when you combine that vulnerability with a system that struggles to tackle misconduct effectively, well, you get these awful situations.
It's like the example you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, where a counselor was seemingly able to breach the code, run a social media campaign to intimidate others, damage the council's reputation, and still become chair, apparently with impunity.
That just destroys faith, doesn't it?
Completely. It undermined many people's faith in local democracy, as one submission put it.
Yeah.
And the end result can be simply poor public service. Decisions get delayed, mistakes happen.
Chaz.
Things like planning objections not being passed on correctly, or staff giving out wrong information, meaning residents miss crucial deadlines. The whole purpose of the council gets compromised.
Okay, this is a pretty sobering picture of how things can go wrong. But it can't be hopeless. How does a council pull itself out of this nosedive? How can it move away from dysfunction and actually start representing its community better?
Well, there's definitely a need for a reset on the ethical framework. Stronger rules, yes, but also better communication and training, proper training for counselors and officers.
Making it mandatory this time.
That's the push. Mandatory qualifications for clerks, requiring councils to adopt a proper code of conduct, maybe even a standardized national one, to end that postcode lottery.
A national code would bring clarity, wouldn't it?
Hopefully. And it needs to cover everything, including how counselors behave on social media, which is a huge source of conflict now.
And crucially, sanctions that actually mean something.
Yes. Restoring meaningful sanctions is key, whether that's suspension, maybe even disqualification in serious cases. Some are even suggesting bringing back a national body to oversee standards.
Like the old standards board, but maybe updated.
Potentially. And alongside that, ensuring people have somewhere to go if things go wrong, a fair, transparent complaints process, maybe giving the local government ombudsman a bigger role in conduct issues.
So, strengthening the rules and the referee, essentially. What about the internal workings, making the council itself run better?
Strengthening internal governance is vital. That means things like better whistleblowing policies, actually supporting people who raise concerns, not penalizing them.
Creating a safer culture internally.
Exactly. And focusing on getting the right people in key roles, especially the chief officer or clerk. Recruiting qualified, experienced people, paying them properly. They're crucial for good governance.
And managing the money properly, setting realistic budgets.
Absolutely. Looking at how successful larger councils operate, setting sustainable budgets, using the powers they have, like the general power of competence, to actually do things for the community, though remembering that power belongs to the council as a whole, not individual councilors to wield.
Right, maintaining those checks and balances. So we've got better rules, better internal structures, but what about the relationship with the people outside? How do you rebuild that bridge with the community?
That's maybe the most important piece.
Yeah.
Demos talks about putting relationships with residents right at the heart of the strategy, shifting from just reacting to problems to actively place shaping with the community.
What does that look like in practice?
It means real citizen involvement in decisions, not just consultation theater, but genuine influence. Proper scrutiny, chances to review decisions, maybe even appeal them.
Like those local assemblies you hear about sometimes.
Exactly. Forums where people can actually discuss local issues, maybe even allocate some funds, learn more about how things work, and feel like they have a real say. It builds cohesion.
And you mentioned something about citizen advocates. What's that?
It's an interesting idea, like creating a network of local people who are knowledgeable about the council, maybe they've had a lot of dealings with it, who can help guide and support others trying to navigate the system. A bit like peer support.
Using community knowledge.
Yeah. And just basic empathy in interactions. Little things, like officers meeting residents in their local pub or community center,
Yeah.
not just the council office. It signals approachability.
It sounds like a fundamental shift in mindset is needed.
It really is. There's this concept called double devolution. It's not just about government giving power down to local councils.
Council's giving power down further.
Exactly. Power from councils to local people. Investing in what's called social infrastructure. The groups, the networks, the spaces that build confidence and ability within communities, especially in areas that feel left behind.
Are there examples where this has actually worked?
Fromm is often cited. A group of independents took control, really focused on investing in community projects, building connections, and apparently saw significant improvements, even in things like reducing poverty. It shows what's possible when you genuinely trust and empower local people.
Well, this has been a real deep dive, hasn't it? Way beyond the Hanforth memes. We've seen how fragile trust can be, how dysfunction can set in, but also, crucially, that there are ways forward.
Definitely.
It seems to come down to needing robust standards, yes, but also strong ethical leadership, proper professional support within the council, and maybe most importantly, that deep empathetic connection with the community itself.
That connection is everything. And it leads to a final thought, really, for everyone listening. If transparency and real participation are the keys to rebuilding that trust, what's one thing, one personal action you could take? How could you move from just watching, maybe complaining, to actively demanding or supporting those principles right there in your own local council?